Hello, hello. This is Dr. Janice R. Love, also known as the First Lady Coach, and I equip seasoned pastors' wives to have the clarity, the confidence, and the courage to walk boldly into the destiny for which she was chosen by being perfectly who God created her to be. Thank you for joining and visiting my YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe. All right. So last week, what did we talk about? Last week, we talked about why you should know your mental health and your mental wealth status. That's what we talked about on last week. And we established, if you didn't get a chance to see that, go back and watch it, okay? And then come back and catch up with this one. But we talked about mental health being what we think, how we feel, and how we act. We talked about your mental health being determined by a number of sources, meaning it could have come from hereditary means, it could have been something biological, it could have been some trauma you experienced, or it could even be something environmental. Okay. We also talked about mental wealth being an abundance of psychological, emotional, and spiritual assets that help you to move higher up Maslow's hierarchy of needs to be all that you can be. So last week we defined what mental health was, and we defined what mental wealth was. And we know that mental wealth comes only from having a partnership with God. Okay? So tonight, as I promised, we are going to be talking about 5 questions that can determine your mental health and your mental wealth status. All right, so I'm excited about this once again because these questions that we are going to ask you on tonight are going to be able to help you to determine your mental health and your mental wealth status. Now, one caveat here. I am a licensed Christian counselor. Okay, so I am not giving out diagnoses here. We are talking about your status. Okay, so keep that in mind. I am a licensed Christian counselor and a coach, and I am not doing therapy with you right now, nor am I giving you a diagnosis, but I am helping you to determine what your mental health status is and your mental wealth status. So I wanted to get that out of the way. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to give you instructions, first of all, on how we are going to do this. So hopefully you got a piece of paper and a pencil, and I want you to number your paper from 1 to 5, and then I want you to create this scale, 1, 5, and 10, under each number. So you'll have 5 questions that you're going to have, and you're going to be rating yourself on this scale from 1 to 10. Is everybody with me? Oh, you didn't think I was going to have you do some work today to help you to figure out what your status is? So quickly grab a piece of paper and a pencil. And again, this is what you do. You number your paper from 1 to 5, and then I want you to create a scale for each line as shown below. All right, is everybody ready? Okay, our first question for today is, which do you think about the most? Pain or purpose? Again, which do you think about the most? Your pain or your purpose? That's question number 1. So again, rate yourself on that scale from 1 to 10. Okay, everybody do that. All right, are you ready for the next question? Question number 2. When you think about your future, are you feeling tired or are you feeling inspired? Once again, when you think about your future, are you feeling tired or inspired? All right, go ahead and answer question number 2. Are you ready for question number 3? Which one dominates your thoughts more? Is it fear or is it faith? Once again, which one dominates your thoughts more? Fear or faith? Rate yourself on that 10-point scale. Okay? Now let's move on to the next question. Question number 4. Which do you find yourself saying more often? I'm not or I am. Once again, which do you find yourself saying more often? I'm not or I am. Once again, rate yourself on this 10-point scale. Now, let's move on to question number 5. Which occurs more often in your marriage or your close relationships? Hurt or harmony? Again, which occurs more often in your marriage or your close relationships? Hurt or harmony? All right, did you answer all 5 questions? Did you give yourself a rating for all 5 questions? All right, make sure you did that. And again, if you forgot to bring a pencil and paper to class, then you're going to have to go back and look at it again. But I want everybody to answer those 5 questions, and then you'll be able to determine what your status. But guess what? I have a bonus question too. Y'all know I'm extra, right? So I wanted to add a bonus question. And the bonus question is, what do you need most to move to your next level? Is it support or is it strategy? Again, what do you need most to move to your next level? Is it support or is it strategy? So again, hopefully you have answered every single one of those questions. Now let's talk about what your answers mean or what the questions were about in the first place. Because next week, I'm going to give you some resources as to how you can increase your mental health and your mental wealth. So let's talk about what each one of those questions mean. So the very first question is all about whether or not your pain is standing in the way of your purpose. Sometimes when we are in pain, we can't even think about tomorrow. All we can do is focus on the pain. We can't even think about what this pain might mean in our life going forward or the purpose that God has for us. All right, don't go back and change your answers based on what I say. I just want to define these for you, okay? The second question is all about whether or not you have optimism about the future. Now, your level of optimism or pessimism says a lot about where your mental health is or your mental wealth is. So again, it's all about optimism about the future. And then the third question was about, are you being driven by fear or faith? Are you making decisions based on what you're worried about, what you have anxiety about, or what you fear most? Or are you making your decisions based on faith? All right. Then question number 4 was, do you celebrate your strengths or do you focus on your weaknesses? That's what question 4 is all about. Because so often we can talk about what we are not. If you find yourself talking more about what you are not, then you might be more on the mental health side. But when you can begin to partner with God and talk about your strengths, that's moving into that mental wealth. And then the 5th question was about How harmonious are your relationships? Are you struggling, or are you actually thriving, or are your relationships more filling? So that's what those questions were about. And then the bonus question was all about whether or not you have a vision for the future and if you're ready for action. All right. So hopefully you have answered the question and you fully understand what your status is. Okay. And your status, if you go more to the left side, your status is mental health status. The lower your score is on that side, perhaps the more challenges you are having from a mental health perspective. The further you move to the right, the more assets you tend to have that mental wealth that we're talking about. All right, so do you know what your status is in each one of those areas? All right, so if you need to go back and look at it again, make sure you do that. So next time, now that you know what your status is, we're going to be talking about 3 proven methods to improve your mental health and your mental wealth status. We're going to be talking about 3 proven methods to improve your mental health and your mental wealth status. So make sure that you join me on next week, because again, this is a series and we are moving along so that we fully understand where we are with our mental health, where we are with our mental wealth, and then how we can move to increase those assets to either handle those mental health areas that we talked about, or to move closer and closer to the mental wealth that we all desire to be all that God created us to be. So thank you for joining me on today as we talked about 5 questions that can determine your mental health and your mental wealth status. Thank you again for watching part 2 of my series, Mental Health versus Mental Wealth. Don't forget to come back and see me next time. And don't forget to subscribe. Thank you. Bye-bye.